All right, we are live. What's going on, T-shirt millionaires? I'm Charles Smith III, and today we have another amazing guest on the T-shirt millionaires live show. Today I'm excited. Actually, this is a brother that I've been following for some time. You might have seen some of his ads before. You probably seen some of his content on YouTube, but he comes with a wealth of knowledge. He's been in the game for a while, has done big projects. I'm talking about stuff with Nike. You know what I'm saying? We got Tesla. Kevin Durant, Starbucks, Steph Curry's basketball camp, Chris Brown, all types of stuff. Just the names go on and on and on. So I really look forward to diving into experience, his story, to help you take things to the next level. So without further ado, as we always do, I'm gonna hit this intro video and we'll be right back to have a conversation with Devin Lars. What's going on, T-shirt millionaires? I'm Charles Smith III, the host of the T-shirt millionaires live show. And as I said before, we have Devin Lars on the T-shirt millionaires live show tonight. It's going to be extremely amazing. My brother, how you doing, man?
I'm doing well. I appreciate you having me.
Absolutely, bro. I told you, I appreciate you being here, and I'm always thankful when I get a yes. But I was on YouTube one day. I don't know. I was just searching for some. And then I came across some of your content again. And I was like, man, let me reach out to this brother. And I sent you a comment and you got back to me. And so I'm just thankful and always humble, bro, to, you know what I'm saying, get that yes and you come on and share value with the audience for sure.
Yeah, for sure. You called me at a perfect time because I stepped away from doing content for a minute, just, getting everything situated with last year and how crazy it was. And so now kind of in a space to actually start, putting out some more content. So this is perfect.
Absolutely. No, absolutely. Yeah, I know last year was crazy for a lot of people. So, I mean, with that being said, bro, when I was going through all your content and stuff, it said you were talking about being in the game for about 15 years. Is it still 15 or we going on 16 or 17 right now?
Man, it's been a minute. So I started in 2005 when I was a senior in high school. And I started off airbrushing. So I started off airbrushing custom T-shirts and stuff like that. And then it kind of evolved into screen printing. And then it evolved into, a full-blown agency, what we have right now. So, it's been a minute. It's been a grind. Definitely learned a lot. Didn't know anything when we were first getting started and just learned everything from just trial and error and just jumping in and actually doing it.
Absolutely. And those are where the best lessons come from. So let's go ahead and start from that airbrush part. So when I was reading and going through your story, there was a very important person in your life, your grandfather, right? And I believe that you ended up starting doing some printing at his house. He believed in you. Tell me about that time when you were in high school, when you started doing this airbrushing, and what your grandfather, how the important role he played as you started your journey.
Right. So in high school, in school in general, I wasn't like the best student. School didn't work for me, I felt like. Right. So I was like always creative and into like these different projects. And my best friend and I, we started, he actually graduated a year ahead of me. Right. And so he started airbrushing these like model cars. And I remember after school, I would go over to his house and like watch him airbrush these cars. And my girlfriend at the time suggested like, they had the little kiosks at the mall where they used to airbrush and stuff and like, at the amusement parks and stuff. And so she was like, you guys should start doing it on T-shirts. And I was like, oh, that's a good idea. So I told him. And so originally he was just going to do the airbrushing and I was going to promote it and wear the stuff. Yeah. But I always liked art and stuff. And so I started wearing the shirts and everything. And I was living with my grandfather at the time. And, my grandfather me and my grandfather were really close. Like that was like, that person in your life that you look up to, that's like your hero. That's who my grandfather was for me. Right. And I remember one day I came home and just told him, like, me and Darren want to start this, this airbrushing business. And, can you buy me some equipment? And so he went out, he bought me the equipment and let me set up our airbrushing studio in his garage. Right. And we started working and, I was in class. It was my senior year. I was, airbrushing and, during lunch in my art class and everything like that. And just kind of built it up. We didn't know what we were doing, but we was around the neighborhood and just airbrushing shirts. And then we started to do like different stuff like cars, motorcycles. We started to do like room murals. We started to do a bunch of stuff. But my grandfather gave me that foundation and that support system to just say, look, I believe in you and I think you can do this and I support you, right? It's not just I believe in you, but I'm supporting you and I'm putting up my money and I'm opening up the house to let you, be creative and do that.
That's dope. That's dope. I mean, I think that's amazing that, to have that person in your corner when you young, number one, but got those dreams about doing stuff. You got somebody in your corner. Like you said, I think it's powerful. Not only be like, I support you, believe in it, but put some backing behind you. And that's dope. I really love that. So you talked about him buying equipment for the airbrush and stuff. There was a story you told about Rick Ross, all right, and a pivotal moment, right? A pivotal moment in your story with Rick Ross, I won't even go into more detail. Tell us about this story, my brother. Tell me about this Rick Ross story.
Right, that's funny. So essentially, what we were doing is we were doing a mixture of like airbrushing T-shirts and doing like custom, like hand painted shirts and all this stuff, right? Right. And so when we were first coming up, we didn't have no connections. Nobody knew who we were. Like we were completely, nobody knew who we were and we didn't know what we were doing. And so what we would do is we would go to every single event, every single concert, everything that was happening in the Bay Area and in LA, we would try to go, right? The BET Awards would be out in LA and we would be like doing custom shirts, passing out flyers. We had our hoodies with our company name. It was called D&D Airbrush at the time. And then we put our cell phone numbers on the back. And so we would just go to all these different events and just pass out flyers and stuff like that. And so we started to think about, okay, we wanted to get into, there was no such thing as influencer marketing back then, but we knew, okay, we wanted to get some stuff to some artists. Right. And so Rick Ross was doing a signing at this store in Berkeley. And so we're like, all right, let's do a custom shirt for him. So I stayed up all night trying to do this shirt. And I mean, looking back now, it's crazy because it didn't look nothing like him. The shirt was like, yeah, you can find it on YouTube. I did a whole video on there if you want to see the whole story and what the shirt looked like. But I did this shirt and I put my all into it, right? It was all I can do. And so I brought it to him and we stood in line because he was signing autographs and stuff. And I got up to the front of the line and I gave him the shirt and I held it up. And he was just looking at it, right? And I'm like, all right, did you say something? Like, did you like it? And so I give him the shirt and then we walk out. And then after he left, we like just stayed around, just whatever, trying to network and stuff. And then after he left, on the table where he was sitting, he had just left the shirt there. Like, I'm like, dang, you couldn't even throw it outside or something. You just left it there. Right. And so like, when you starting and coming up and you spent like, I probably spent like 10, 12 hours on that shirt trying to, figure it out and coming up with the concept and stuff like that. So to be able to do that, it was like it wasn't my first, but it was like a major kind of defeat because I was just like, man, I spent all this time and like, he didn't even like, it's not going to work. Right. And my business partner was like, bro, like you got to start somewhere. You're not going to be, the greatest, right, when you come out. And my art teacher used to tell me that all the time because I used to like beat myself up, right? I'd be like, man, I'm trying to be better and I'm not there. And he said, it takes time, right? It takes time. And so, so that was kind of, that's how it started. And then later on down the line, we started to kind of progress and we started to do screen printing. We started to do a bunch of stuff. And fast forward, like, I want to say like 3-4 years later, we ended up doing some stuff, working with the radio station. They got us into a private signing again with Rick Ross. And we came with some of our product that was a little bit more cleaner, right? It wasn't custom. It was it was called a dead clock hoodie or whatever. And so we went up and did this whole packaging. Same exact scenario. This time, 3 days later, he ended up wearing it in one of his music videos and stuff. So it was just a reminder for me to showcase that, like, whenever you start, it's going to be ugly like that shirt, right? It's going to be ugly in the beginning. You're not going to know what you're doing. It's going to feel uncomfortable. But if I would have stopped there, all that other stuff would have transpired. And that, like, him wearing it in the video led to like a bunch of other stuff. And so it was a big lesson to me that I learned later on, right? I didn't understand it when it was happening, but 4 years later or whatever it was, I look back and I was like, okay, that makes sense on the process, right? And then I started to figure out, okay, it's about enjoying the process, right? It's the process of like actually becoming better. It's not necessarily the results. The results are going to come. It's the process that you have to focus on. I think so many people that are starting their business and starting up, they get discouraged because, especially now with social media, right? You're looking at everybody's final product. I heard a line that said you're comparing your behind the scenes to everybody's highlight reels. And so it's like when you see everybody winning and you just getting started, you like, dang, I might as well just quit because I'll never accomplish what they've accomplished. And so, you know, luckily, really when we started, I mean, Instagram was out, but it wasn't like how social media is now. It's so much more pressure now because you're looking at everybody else and everybody else is showing their wins and stuff like that. And it's very apparent and you can see it. Back then, you couldn't really see it that much, right? There wasn't a lot of people starting brands. There wasn't a lot of people, entrepreneurship really wasn't talked about like that back then. So now there's so much pressure, but if I could tell anything to somebody that's just getting started, it's like, it's going to be ugly and terrible in the beginning, but just keep working and enjoy the process, because that's where the work and that's where the greatness comes in.
Man, that's amazing, bro. And that's exactly what I wanted to get out of that story. And you just dropped some gems. Like I said, we have t-shirt brand owners. We have people who are just at the very beginning stages, right? But just to hear that you put a lot of time and energy and effort and pride into a project, you presented it and it just straight got rejected, right? But you took that and you continue to build, and then over time you look, however far it was, I don't know the time period, but he ended up wearing your brand later on, right? So just to see that come full circle is powerful, brother. So for everybody here, the notes that I wrote down, he talked about got to start somewhere. He talked about it has to take time. He talked about the process, but also at the same time, not comparing to other people, especially if they started before you and they're further along. So my brother, I appreciate that. I think that's extremely valuable. And I appreciate you sharing that story. Now, real quick, I just want to give a shout out to Healthy Hair, Priceless. 1 time for the bosses, 2 times for the young legends. Appreciate y'all, boys. So many blessings, Healthy Hair, Priceless. Thank you so much for donating to the show. Truly, truly appreciate it. Humble for that. So, all right, my brother, let's continue it going. So there was another story that seemed like it was a pivotal time in your journey that I wanted to talk about. So it was a night, I believe you and your partner were doing a Led Zeppelin, like a guitar, something going on guitar. And you had an event that happened that kind of changed your trajectory for a while. And I wanted to see, as much as you feel comfortable,
yeah, for sure,
talking about that story and walking through that.
For sure. So again, I live with my grandfather, right? And I lived with him for like 5 years. I moved in with him my I want to say sophomore year in high school. And so my grandfather he was that one that pushed me and was just like, yo, you can do anything, and really believed in me, opened up his house, all the stuff. So we would always do projects like in the garage and stuff like that. And we ended up like advertising on Craigslist. And we got contacted by one of the road managers for Led Zeppelin, and they wanted to do this custom guitar. And so, I mean, we're 2 kids from the hood. Like, we didn't like, that's crazy to us, right? We just went from airbrushing t-shirts to having this opportunity to doing something with like one of the biggest bands in the world, right? And so it was a big accomplishment for us. And so it was like a week-long project. We're trying to figure out how to do it, how to set it up. And so the day before it was delivered, we were like working on it all day and trying to get it done all night. And so we were at my grandfather's house, my business partners and I, and they were in the garage, like airbrushing the guitar. And I was in the front room trying to cut out some pieces, like some vinyl pieces and stickers that we were doing for the stencils.
Right.
My grandfather was in the front room and he had dozed off, and it was like around like 12:30 or whatever at night. And so I asked my grandpa, I'm like, look, are we making too much noise? Because I know it's kind of late. Do you want us to stop? And he was like, no, I want to see this come out. And so he was like, I'll just go in the back. And so he got up and went in the back. And I remember like going into the garage and telling my business partners, I said, man, my grandpa's a G, man. I don't know what I would do without him. Like, I remember saying those exact words. I come back in and I'm cutting out these pieces and I hear this noise in the back. And I'm like cutting out the pieces. I didn't really think about it, like where my grandpa was. And then I hear him kind of coming down the hallway, and I hear this loud crash, and I didn't know what it was. So I got up and I went over to see, and he had like fell over and knocked over one of the lamps. And so I like had to grab him and like move him in the front room, and I ran to the garage and told my business partners to call 911. I'm on the ground with my grandfather. He's like rolling around, grabbing his chest and stuff, and I'm trying to like talk to him, calling my dad, like it was just a chaotic time and moment.
Right.
And you know, he ended up like making his noise that I never forget, and taking his last breaths in my arms. Right. And he had a heart attack and passed away in my arms. Like literally went from 5 minutes talking to him to the next 5 minutes, he was gone. And so I don't know any of you guys listening or watching have experienced that. I mean, it's life, right? Like sometimes it's inevitable, right? I mean, things are going to happen. And so like, you know, it sent me into a dark place. Anybody that has went through that, you know, kind of where that takes you, right? It takes you into this, like, just this zone of like losing inspiration. Like I lost everything. I lost inspiration. I stopped airbrushing. My business partner and I got this job that we like didn't really like. And I was just I fell into this like depression, and it was hard because it was like, I looked at my grandfather as he was the guy that can like, you know, beat death, right? He was that dude, right? You know, he was the one that just wouldn't take anything. And so for him to be gone, it really changed me. And I tell everybody it grew me up like 10 years. And so what that ended up doing is, you know, I started working this job that I really didn't like, and I was miserable. And long story short, I ended up quitting that job because I was like, okay, we wanted to start a clothing company, right? We wanted to start a t-shirt brand, and we knew we wanted to like do airbrushing, or not airbrushing, but screen printing. And we didn't know what screen printing was at the time. And so my business partner, when we were working this job, he kept telling me like, look, they got this class at this community college down the street in Oakland. Like, let's go sign up for the class. And I remember I was like, just all the negative stuff in your head. You know how like when you try to do something or you want to do something, and there was like voices coming in your head, like, oh, you can't do this, or oh, you can't do that. Right. All that stuff was like attacking me. And finally one day I said, forget it, I'm about to quit this job. And we were driving to work, and we literally like turned around, left the job. We didn't go into work, and we went and signed up for that class. And I just got really serious because it showed me that like life is short, man. And I'm like, I don't have no time to waste. If I want to accomplish something, if I want to do something, I got to do it now. And wow. It woke something up in me that I didn't know I have. Like in terms of like a focus and like a passion and a consistency to keep going. It was crazy. And so, you know, we signed up for that screen printing class, and kind of the rest is history from there. I kind of used that as always kind of fueling me, right? In terms of like, even dealing with setbacks, because I'm like, once you have that happen to you, you can't, like, the little stuff doesn't really bother you, right? Like, you lose an account, you lose this. It's like, what does that really mean? It really doesn't mean anything when you compare it to like the grand scheme of things. So I always compare stuff and put things in perspective with my grandfather passing away versus like this little setback happening. I'm like, oh, this is nothing. If I went through that and I could get through my grandfather passing away and dying in my arms, I could get through anything. And so I kind of use that as a mental process to go through, to just keep moving and dealing with all the setbacks, because you just keep moving. It's not that big a deal.
That's powerful, bro. And RIP to your grandfather, man. And I appreciate your transparency of, you know, telling that story, right? Because, you know, here you are at a place where maybe this is the biggest project that you had to date, right? And then this thing happens with your grandfather, right? The most important person in your life. And at that moment in time, you talk about losing inspiration, right? And going to this dark place. And as I was listening to your story and doing a little bit of research, you know, me hearing about you being at a job that was unfulfilling, but also you being at a place to where you were at a crossroads. Didn't you say at one point in time, you ended up getting a promotion and you had to kind of think about if you were going to take it, if you were going to leave or not?
Yeah, you really did your research. Yeah. That's good. I forgot about that whole thing. So what happened was when I was at that job, part of the process for me was, you know, how I navigated all that stuff and that like negative self-talk and all the stuff of trying to get me like, oh, you can't do this, you can't do that. Once we had that opportunity of like, okay, they have a class there, I started to, you know, kind of think about it. Actually, like think about leaving the job. And I think it was like 2 weeks or so before I left, my manager called me in the office and wanted to promote me to be team lead. And it would come with a, it would come with a raise. It would come with, all this stuff. And so, it sounded good. Like I could sit there and be comfortable, and I could get a raise and do all this stuff, but I'll be miserable. And so I told my best friend, and he was like, look, I can't make the decision for you, but you got to think what's really best for you. And so I'm like, I could sit here and be comfortable and like take this raise and just like let life just push me wherever I want to go, or I could take a chance at like living and doing what I want to do. And it was a very interesting process to go through, because I'm looking at both ways and kind of evaluating what's best and looking at pros and cons and like, just going through this mental process. And then it was like something snapped. It was just like we were driving to work one morning, and I just said, like 2 weeks after that conversation happened, and I just said, man, life is too short. What would my grandpa want me to do? He wouldn't want me to sit here and be miserable. He would want me to go and do what I was trying to do.
Right.
And so that was the time that I made that decision, and I didn't look back. And the crazy part about it is that company ended up going out of business like 2 years later.
Oh wow, yeah.
So I would have stayed. I would have ended up being unemployed anyways. And so we ended up getting an office literally right down the street from that old job, and our office is there, and they're closed, right? And so it was just a crazy full circle moment, and it just showed me that, sometimes you just got to take a chance on yourself, man. You got to bet on yourself.
Wow. No, that's huge. So for everybody listening, right? Betting on yourself. He had two options, and it looks like the first option, they went out of business later on, so it probably wouldn't have been a good thing. But, betting on yourself, believing on yourself, seeing something bigger. So you end up going to take this screen printing class, my brother. Yep. So tell me about, you going through that process, and then from there, getting your first clients with this new skill set that you learned.
Yeah. So it was in 2008 that we took the screen printing class, and it was right around the time that Obama was, running for president. And so everybody had those Obama t-shirts. Right. And so we're in class, and there's two parts to the class, right? There's the beginning part, right? That's like you print on paper and stuff. We didn't want to print on paper. And then there's like the advanced part where you print on t-shirts. And so, they had this little broke down carousel, like 2-station, 2-color, the screens never registered, like, this old bootleg electric dryer. But I mean, it was something, right? We didn't know what we were working with anyways. We never had anything. And so we ended up like talking the teacher into getting us into the advanced class. And so what we ended up doing is we started to pick up business outside of class and using the class equipment to print the shirts. Nice. And so we figured, okay, screen printing makes the most sense, because we wanted to start a brand, but everybody has t-shirts. So essentially what we can do is, and I think this is what everybody has this, like in this industry, like I'm sure everybody has this thought, okay, we can print for other people. And then what we can do is we can use the money to invest in our brand, and then we can use the equipment to, to print our stuff. Let me tell you something, it don't work like that, right? Like everybody says that, and we thought we can do it, but it was a whole process around that. We can get into that later. But we ended up getting business. The teacher was like, look, I could get fired if they find out you're making money using the equipment. We had to pay her off. We had no money, so we had to give her shirts. So like, shirt, like, just be quiet. Let us just do this. Right. All the students in there was like hating on us, like, why do they get to do that? And so we just like utilized what we had. We were just resourceful, and we just said we're gonna learn and use this. And so we started to sell shirts to the store in Berkeley. And when the class ended, the store called me, like, I want to say like 2 days after the class ended. And they were like, hey, we need 24 shirts by Friday. And I was like, all right, yeah, for sure. I got you. And then we were like, damn, we don't have no money to buy equipment. We don't have access to anything. So we literally went down to Home Depot and bought some like woods and clamps and screws. And we built like a 1-color, 1-station press. And we like used that press, set it up in the garage, and like used our fireplace as a heater to dry the shirts.
Word.
We're thinking like that's entrepreneurship 101, right? Like you got to utilize what you got. You can't sit there. Of course, we wish we would have had equipment. We wish we would have had all this stuff, but we had to build what we can do and use what we can do. Luckily, it was just a 1-color, so we didn't have to do multiple colors on the print. And so yeah, I mean, we thought we were like, we thought we were the next Steve Jobs. Like we just built the iPhone or something. You know what I mean? We were like, okay, we about to be rich. And then we did that. We dropped the shirts off, and the store owner looked at him, and then he started to smell the shirts. And I'm like, why are you smelling the shirts? And he was like, why does it smell like a campfire? So we didn't realize like the smoke from the fireplace was getting on the shirts and making them smell like, like Smokey the Bear and took them off.
Yeah.
So, we were like, man, we gotta do something better. Like, we gotta step our game up if we want to really like do this business. And so, we put a business plan together. We didn't know what that was. We had some numbers that were unrealistic and just didn't make sense. And we asked everybody if they would buy us some equipment. Everybody said no. We couldn't get a loan. We didn't have no credit. So luckily, my mom, is another person like my grandfather that believed in us, and she ended up giving us a couple $1,000s to invest in our first. Like, I got a tabletop screen printing press. We got a flash dryer, so we were like drying the shirts like with our hands, like trying to move it through the flash dryer, burning our hands and stuff because we couldn't afford a conveyor dryer.
Right.
And we set up in my grandfather's garage. After he had passed away, I was still living there, and we turned his whole house into our manufacturing facility. We had all the garage, like all of our printing press and heat press and all of that stuff. I turned my room into the office. And I'm talking about we're 20, 22, 23 years old, right? With no guidance and not knowing what we're doing, right? We're just like, we're going to figure it out.
Yeah.
I don't care. All my friends were going to college. Everybody's laughing at us. Entrepreneurship, that was in like 2008, right? So, or 2009. Entrepreneurship was not a thing. It wasn't cool. People didn't talk about it. So everybody was going to college and thinking that's the way to success. Like, that's the only way to success. So the people I went to school with high school with were coming and like visiting from college and like, man, what are you doing? Laughing at me and stuff, thinking we're going to take over the world with an airbrush and like all this stuff. Yeah. And I just said, I don't care what y'all saying. Like, let's see how this plays out in a couple of years. Right. I knew I had the vision in mind, and even my family was just like, I don't know what you got going on, what you doing, but you have to trust the vision. So like that video that you posted with the visionary thing that I did, it was all about like, sometimes when you have this idea and this vision, nobody can see it, right? Nobody can see it but you. They're not supposed to see it because it's in your head. It's the way you see it. So you can't let anybody interfere and get in the way of you, realizing that vision and putting it together.
That's hard, bro. Nah, that's dope, man. And like, kudos to you for, going through that process. And I can only imagine, man. I know how it was. I went to school 2004, 2008, and entrepreneurship, I guess maybe even the pathways of just being an entrepreneur, I wasn't too exposed to it at that point in time. And so I know the times, coming back, spring break, Christmas break. And so you got these people coming back looking like, what you got going on, right? But I love how you talked about vision and talking about this whole, video that I played. What I want to do for those who didn't see it, I want to go ahead and play this video real quick about what Devin talks about as far as vision. This thing is hard. So let me go ahead and play this and we'll be right back, bro.
They say greatness resides in all of us, and that all we have to do is see it, find it, live it, believe it. It all starts with a vision. Everything. And even though some people may look at you funny, don't understand it, can't see it, or maybe it's not time for them to see it. But one thing's for certain, is that when they do see it, they won't be able to ignore it. And honestly, the only thing that really matters is that you see it.
Bruh, that John's so fire, bruh.
I ain't watched that. I ain't watched that all the way through in a minute. That's that was in 2000.
You posted it in 18.
Right. But we recorded it in 2013.
Oh wow.
Yeah. So that video is old. I mean, that's like It was either 2012 or 2013. It was a minute ago, and I just remember it was before anything had happened too. And honestly, real talk, like I made that video for me, right? Because I was going through a lot of stuff, and I remember sitting in the car. I never told the story. So I was sitting in the car in front of my mom's house because she had a 1-bedroom, 1-bath apartment. And I've been working. I was putting all my resources in the business, and I was sleeping on her couch. And she had a little couch, right? So I had to like use a little footstool and sleep at an angle, right? And so I was sleeping on her couch, and I just remember it was like, I don't know, it was probably like 3 a.m. And I was outside, and I was like getting ready to go into the house, and I was just sitting in the car, And I was just frustrated. It was like some accounts that didn't go through. It was like, you know, things were just like, we were paying the bills and stuff, but it wasn't like, it just wasn't where I thought it should be at that time, right? I've been working at this since 2005, it's 2013,
Right.
2012, 2013. And yeah, we got a manufacturing facility, we're doing this and stuff, but it's like, I felt like I'm not making money, I'm not making progress. I was just stressed out, and I was sitting in the car, and I just started to like talk about having a vision. And I just started to like recite this stuff and this information. And like, literally that's how that video happened. I just pulled out my voice memo and I just started to record it for myself. Word. And I was talking through it. And then I was just like, I need to have something that I can see every day that reminds me to keep going and that I have this. And I literally wholeheartedly did that video for myself because I was going through it. I just had to keep myself motivated. And I was like, all right, I got this idea. We're gonna do this, and then we're gonna flip it around. And I directed the whole video and came up with the concept, designed it the next day, and you know, it just helped me just kind of stay focused. And so when I would get discouraged, I would watch it. I would literally watch that. I would like be stressed out, and I would pull that video up and watch it like 4 or 5 times, take a deep breath, and then just keep moving. And I never told that story before.
No, that's fire, bro. So to me, that makes it even more dope that you did it before, you know, the progress that you were looking for happened, number one. But then at the same time, you recording that back in like 2013, that just shows that how timeless the message is, right? And how relevant it is to anybody who is trying to push forward and create something that they see in their mind, that it takes time to unfold. So, bro, when I looked at it the other day, I was like, that Joe's so fire, bro. I was like, I gotta play that on the interview. So, yeah, man, I appreciate you sharing that story, family. So, tell me this, bro. So, like you said, it looked like you started, you sold some shirts, you were making some progress, but you know, like you said, some accounts didn't go through. It felt like you weren't really making any money. I understand that feeling. When did you get to the place to where you finally got some type of breakthrough and you were like, oh yeah, I feel like this is big? Like, tell me when that happened.
So it actually happened before that. So this is the interesting part. So in 2010, we started to go back and forth, and we would be at, you know, we'd be in LA. Like I said, we would go to every single event. After we started screen printing, we kind of like got back to our roots in terms of just being out all the time, right? We would go back and forth to LA. So we went to the Magic Show, right, which is in Vegas, the biggest trade show. It used to be popping, right? It used to be it was kind of like Complex Con, but for the industry. It was like, it was big. Like in 2009, 2010, 11, 8, like all around that time, it was like the place where you went. All the celebrities went there. You had to be in the industry to get in. It was the place. And so we went to Vegas, and we went there, and, you know, we met a bunch of people. We met this celebrity stylist, EJ King, and we just built a relationship with him, right? We would just like go over, and we went to LA, we would link with him. He was just like super cool. We were doing stuff. We would, you know, give him a bunch of things. So he started doing like styling for Day 26. And so we sent him out some stuff. He got Day 26 to wear it. He got Lil Fizz from B2K to wear it. And it was like our first time. We was getting like, these are custom things. He got like all these people to wear it. And so we went to Magic. We got Soulja Boy to wear our shirts, but it never really went anywhere, right? We would like get these like this. Okay, cool. That's cool. You got these celebrities wearing your stuff, but what does that mean? What does it translate? We didn't understand the business side of things and how to like actually utilize this opportunity. And so we ended up for a while, we started working with, you know, EJ King, and he started working with Chris Brown. And so in 2010, I think it was 2010. Yeah, 2010, 2011, we went down to LA for the BET Awards, and we did some custom stuff because we knew he was going to be with Chris. And so we did some custom stuff for him. We did like a custom chain, a custom jacket, all that stuff. And we ended up linking with him. We gave him the stuff. He was like, yo, come through to the studio. And I was like, all right, cool. So we came through. We ended up meeting Chris. And I think that was the first time where I was just like, all right, hold on, this is crazy, because this is the dude that we looked up to, and like, this is the dude, right? And like, he's right here, like in front of us, and it just felt weird. It wasn't necessarily like I felt like we belonged there, right? It wasn't like a starstruck feeling, but it was just like, oh, this is crazy. This is how I seen the things play out. And what's crazy about that is before we went to LA, they had an album come out called Fan of a Fan. It was him and Tiger, right? And it was a mixtape. And so we had that album on repeat the whole time that we was working. And he had this video, him and Tiger had this video. And I remember watching the video and I was like, it was like they was at a house and it was like in the pool and stuff. And I was like, I'm gonna be there one day. Like I'm gonna be there one day. And I would visualize it, right? Talking about having a vision. I would just think about it. I'm like, that's where I belong. Like I'm just gonna be there. Like I know for a fact I'll be there.
Right.
So long story short, we started working with so back we were at the studio, we met Chris, we left. He posted on Twitter wearing the custom chain and the jacket. And it was like crazy. He didn't tag us in it or anything, but it was just like crazy. We were like, dang, he really wore our stuff.
Right.
And so then we would go back and forth to LA and we just started building a relationship with him. We would pull up. And that day, what we ended up doing is we met him and his whole entourage. And we met his bodyguard, Chris's bodyguard. And so I started to build a relationship with the bodyguard. I'm like, yo, like anything you need, if you need t-shirts, screen printed, whatever, I got you. He's like, look, I don't have a big budget. I said, it's good. It's free. Just whatever you need, I got you. Because we were like, if you provide value and you add value to people, they're going to keep you around. And so we started to build a relationship with the bodyguard. We would go back and forth to LA. Then we didn't realize, like looking back, it makes sense now because he's the one that knows where Chris is going. He's the one that gets people in. He's the one that he's basically the guy, the person. He's going to answer his phone. He's not going to be super busy. So we just started building a relationship and he put us in front of Chris and he kept telling, like he was in Chris's ear, like, yo, you need to check these dudes out. It's dope. We would send him some of our stuff from our brand and his bodyguard would wear it. So every time Chris popped up on TMZ, we got this big billboard with the bodyguard wearing our shirt. So it was product placement. Looking back, it was genius on how we did it, but we didn't know what we were doing. We just was kind of going with the flow. And so then, Chris ended up, I was in the house. Chris ended up calling me one day. I thought he like pocket dialed me. And he was like, look, I want to do this collaboration project with you. And, long story short, we started to do some stuff. We went to LA. We started working together. He posted some stuff. He tagged us. Like all this stuff happened and like things instantly changed for us, right? And so we got this like really big push. We started getting all these accounts. We started to get all this stuff. And so sometimes in business, you get these uptrends, right? So we were going through this uptrend and we were taking advantage of it and utilizing it, but everything plateaus at a certain point, right? And so it was like in 2000, that was in, like I said, 2010, 2011. So then by 2014, it had kind of plateaued. Like we got our accounts and we were doing stuff. And so I just felt that I wasn't where I wanted to be in 2014, even though despite us having this big break and having all this stuff. And then, 2013, it was just kind of crazy. And in 2014, we had another opportunity where we got a big account with Tesla and we started to do all their teamwear stuff that spiked it up again. And then I just started to realize, business and life has ebbs and flows. Like you're not going to always be on this upward trajectory. You have to understand and ride the waves of going up and down and be able to adapt and adjust and change and reinvent yourself, right? Reinvention is so important because it's like what worked back then is not necessarily going to work today. Wow. And so it was difficult. So to your point, to answer your question, 2013, I wrote that because it was like, okay, I had a taste of success, but then I wasn't really where I wanted to be financially, right? We didn't know how to capitalize on it and actually make money from the situations because we didn't understand the business side is so important. It's like, yeah, you can do the art and the creative all day, but if you don't know how to turn that into actual structured business, it don't mean nothing, right? It don't mean nothing. It's just going to be cool, right? It's like, oh, cool, that's dope. But, so I had to remind myself, okay, this is a long-term thing. This is what Nipsey says, a marathon, right? It's not a sprint. And so that's kind of how it transpired and kind of, that's the long answer of how it worked.
No. Well, that's powerful. There's a few pieces of gems that I picked out from there. Number one, you talked about adding value to the bodyguard, right? So, there are a lot of people who probably could have, went up to Chris Brown. Hey, Chris Brown, I want you to do this. I want you to do this. And I talk about this all the time. It's not always about taking. It's figuring out where you can be valuable and where can you give to a situation. And you ended up building this relationship with the bodyguard, which got you connected to Chris Brown, which is dope. And that's something that I want everybody to think about. Whenever there's opportunity or somebody that you want to get connected to, figure out what you can give first. What value can you add first? Number one. So I think that's powerful. Number two, you talked about just ebbs and flows in business. You had, these hits, like these licks that happen at certain times, but then they kind of died down, and it's about reinventing yourself. But one thing that I do want to ask you, just to kind of iterate on a little bit, is you talked about you having these opportunities, but not knowing what to do with them, not knowing how to capitalize. Hindsight, what would you have done differently if you know what you know now?
That's a really good question. I think so. So everything happens for a reason. I really do feel everything happens for a reason. And I think in terms of it was what I needed to go through to understand where it was at. But looking back, if I had to, I mean, we're structured now, right? Like, so I didn't have a team. I didn't have a COO. I didn't have a finance department. I didn't have like all the stuff that we have now, right? So I would have focused more so on building a team and understanding and building around where I was weak, right? And so like my COO now, she handles like pretty much the logistics of how to structure everything, right? I don't deal with that stuff. She handles the logistics. I come in with the vision, idea, where are we going? This is what we're doing. And then she manages the step-by-step logistics. I'm not a logistical person that can like come in there and do that. So when it came time to like logistically figure out how is all this stuff going to work, I was trying to do too much, right? I was trying to take on too much. And so I would say looking back, I would have invested more into building a team than I did. And understanding where my strengths and my weaknesses kind of started and stopped. And I would have hired around my weaknesses to be able to support that, to be able to execute on this stuff. Because now looking back and how we are able to execute on deals is because I have a team around me. I have an amazing team around me that can execute and is like a million times better at me than the stuff that I'm weak at. But the stuff that I'm good at, I'm really good at. And so I started to learn, I just need to focus on that. And I think that's the biggest thing that I would change going back, or I wouldn't change anything going back, but I'm just like what I learned of why that didn't work would be that. And I'm thankful for all those experiences because that's stuff that you can't take away. Like this is not stuff like this. When you sit down and talk to somebody that's really went through it, you know when people are lying and when people, because you talk to a bunch of people that, I've done this. If you sit down and talk to them for a second, you can tell the people that are BSing, right? And not telling the truth and just reading something and like saying that versus somebody that actually went through it. Those things you can't hide from it. You can't fake it. It's something that's just, you just got to go through it. And it's just part of the process. And I think, I posted a video of Nipsey, that he had posted like a while ago where he just talked about the only difference between him and everybody else is he just didn't give up.
I know that video. Yeah.
I just did not give up. I just like, no matter how many setbacks, no matter how many 3-day notices we got, no matter how many accounts we lost, no matter how many times we had to reprint shirts, no matter how many times, I just never gave up. And it just never was in the cards. Like I would like, me and my mentor called like throwing up, right? Like I would like, man, I want to quit, man. This is some BS. I don't want to do this no more. And then it's like, okay, after that conversation, it's like, are you ready to get back to work? Yeah, I'm good. So get it out. You got to get it out. But I know for a fact I'll never quit. I just won't. It's just, I'm not going to stop. So that's the biggest thing that I learned. And what I can share to anybody else is out of that story is being self-aware of where your strengths are. And sometimes in the beginning, even where I couldn't have hired a team. I just wasn't in a mental position. I wasn't like mentally, I wasn't there. Financially, I wasn't there. So we couldn't have done that even looking back. Right. So I just will tell everybody, just go through the process, learn what you got to learn, take the stuff and learn and build upon it. It's just building blocks. You just got to keep building on it. And provide value. It's always value. Always value. It's never asking.
Absolutely.
Always value for long term.
No, that's powerful. I think those are, gems. So everybody, I mean, he talked about, RIP to Nip. He talked about marathon. He talked about perseverance. He just didn't stop, right? But then I also just love the fact that, you mentioned about building a team. You talk about visionary. That's exactly how I am, bro. I'm a visionary, but when it comes to logistical stuff, operations, I'm not interested in it. I know that it's needed to a business and I'm not good at it either, right? And I've recently, over the last year, heard about even like a book. It's called Rocket Fuel and Traction. And it talks about having a visionary and an integrator, which is that operations person. So, definitely for everybody listening, think about hiring to your weaknesses like Devin talked about, so you can focus on your strengths, do what you're good at, and then the business can still run at a great rate. So that's powerful, bro. I appreciate you sharing all that. Now tell me this, man. When did the Doing Everything Different brand come to life? Like, when did you create that? When did that come to life?
So when my grandfather passed away, we always wanted to start a brand. So like when we left that job, we were like, okay, we're going to start this brand called Doing Everything Different. And we're going to screen print for other people and stuff like that. And so we always used kind of doing everything different as like a tool to be able to build relationships, right? We never looked at it in terms of, having it its sole brand and that's all it is, of just like, oh, we're going to like solely focus on this. It's always been about building like relationships and using this as a tool. And so what we've done is that's how we've gotten a lot of our accounts, right? Is we started to do, we would print product like this. It's how we got the Tesla account. We would print Doing Everything Different product and use it as a tool to be able to give to people, to build relationships, to then be able to do either collaborations or get screen printing accounts or to do, their product development, consultation, stuff like that. And so it's kind of been a tool that honestly, we haven't done much with it in a long time, of like how we've had it and stuff like that. We're getting ready to ramp up and do a whole kind of like rebrand to it and use it and kind of change the momentum of it and how we're going to use it. But it's pretty much a portfolio piece of just like some of the stuff that like creatively that what we can do. But our main thing that we do is our agency, right? And so that's the big thing. And this is just kind of going to be again, like a portfolio piece to kind of showcase what we can do and kind of like our creativity.
That's dope. So basically the brand, would you go up, like when you had clients maybe you want to work with, you pointed them to this website and say, look, this is what we did. This is what we created. Just kind of like solidifying your talent, the work that you can put together.
Yeah. And then we would like print stuff and give it to them, right? We would do like different packages and stuff like that to give it to them, little experiences. We didn't realize it was like, they're called seeding kits. So seeding kits are like influencer boxes, right? Experiences that brands do and put together to create, talk and buzz around it, right? And especially in the world that we're in right now. And so back then, we didn't realize all the stuff that we were doing was training us for what we were going to do in the future, right? A lot of people don't realize that. A lot of stuff that you're going through right now is preparing you for your future self. Wow. And so looking back, all the stuff that I had to go through, the seeding kits, working with the different artists, doing all that stuff is now empowered me to be able to operate within our agency and do stuff like that. So for instance, we were doing these packages and all that stuff. We just last month did a big seeding experience with the Warriors. So the Warriors has a new jersey that says Oakland Forever. So we helped them execute on a campaign and we did a whole packaging influencer seeding experience. And based on the relationships that we had previously with all these influencers, we were able to connect the Warriors with the influencers, plus get the account and the project to do the project. So we designed and did the project, but then we helped connect and get the influencers. So it allowed us to be able to, number one, on the influencer standpoint, oh, this is dope. Like you provided me value because, a company, organization like the Warriors reached out and gave me this custom jersey and this whole experience. And then it provided value to the Warriors of like, okay, not only can you do the project, but then you also allowed us to get it to the influencers because we didn't have connections to these people. So it's all the long term. You have to think about everything that I do is long term. Everything, the way that I think, the way that I look at things is not for right now. It's for 5 years from now, 10 years from now, 3 years from now, every single thing that I do. And I think that goes in a world where you have instant gratification and you have social media and you get everything now. That's a really, really hard concept for people that don't understand it. It doesn't come naturally to them. They think success and things need to happen now, but that's the quickest way to go out of business for doing stuff for now. I mean, you're going to go out of business. It's almost guaranteed. If you're doing stuff for now in the short term, you're going to go out of business. There's no ifs, ands, buts about it. I've been doing this literally full time. I've not had a job since 2008, where I had a job for 6 months. But this has been my full-time life, everything. This has been everything that I've done because I've sacrificed. I've been able to, not worry about having the dope car in the beginning, not worry about living in the dope place, can sleep on my mom's couch. Like I knew it required sacrifice. You know, I was dumping all my money into the business. And so people just should understand that, like, you have to bet on yourself. You have to think long term. You have to add value to people, and you have to trust the process.
Wow, that's fire, bro. I think that's like pure wisdom. And, you know, I think everybody watching, right, especially the people who just got started doing something right. Entrepreneur, starting a brand. You know, I hear a lot of times people might run Facebook ads and Instagram ads and, you know, try to get sales and different things. And it's like, oh, well, this didn't work. This didn't work. And you, like you talked about, you think long term. What you're doing is you're planting seeds that will grow later on. You're still developing the skill set, but I think that's extremely powerful. And for everybody, you know, that is in your business in the journey where you might not be where you need to get to. Remember what Devin just talked about. He said that everything that you're doing right now, whether you know it or not, is preparing you for your future self. And I think that's extremely powerful that everybody should definitely pick up. Now, tell me this, bro. Kurieo, right? Mm-hmm. So Kurieo, that's your creative agency. You talked about, you know, partnering with the Warriors. Exactly what do you do over at Kurieo?
Right. So we transitioned. So I had my own internal, you know, in-house manufacturing, screen printing equipment. And it was challenging trying to do everything, right? I felt like I was more on the creative front end side. And so we started to, in 2016, we kind of transitioned into becoming a creative agency. And so Kurieo, we didn't have no clients at the time, but Kurieo is basically an agency where we help tell our clients' stories, right? We find out our clients, we help the narrative, and we create a story around it. And then we help merge the online world with the offline world, right? With the physical space. So that's with campaign development, video production, campaigns, Instagram ads, things of that nature, and then offline through product development. So seeding kits, merchandise for different artists, merchandise for different companies, direct to consumer, different things of that nature. So we have a bunch of clients from the Warriors, Nike, Starbucks, Sequoia Capital, Target. We have some other clients that we're working with right now that is in the works, that we have some pretty big projects coming out with Chase Center. So like all the artist gifts, they come into town and we do a bunch of stuff for them. So Kurieo is just a really cool way of being able to work with these like Fortune 500 companies and help storytell, and how do we connect and merge the two worlds together and kind of take our experience from, you know, the product development space, and then also the, you know, the marketing side of things. And so it's been really cool. I mean, that's what I do full time. I mean, that's what, you know, that is the majority of my time is spent with that. We have an amazing team, and we work with some of the like dopest brands in the world.
That's dope. So a couple of questions about it that you talked about. You know, how do you get so plugged in with these huge brands? Because you ain't working with, you know, you might have smaller accounts, but these are like brands that everybody know about worldwide. You know, how has those relationships come about over time with the agency?
Yeah, it's a good question, and I ask myself that a lot of times too, right? Because like I think about that, because you're right. I mean, we do work with a lot of these big companies in real ways, and okay, I'll give you two examples that I think the audience will really like. It'll really help. So we'll start with Nike. So how we got Nike. I'm going to summarize it to make it quick, but I want to make sure that it's valuable. So remember when I told you we started working with Chris, and we started doing a bunch of stuff, which opened us up to the music industry. So a lot of people saw it. We started working with the local radio station out here, KMEL. So we started doing all the Summer Jam and concert shirts, all the promotional stuff. And in a trade, they would like put our logos on the Jumbotron, and we would get access to the artists. That's how we got in with Rick Ross and like Trey Songz and all these people. Mm-hmm. We built a really strong relationship with their team, with their marketing team. They trusted us. They knew that we were going to deliver. It was one time some shirts got messed up with the color the night before, the morning before the concert. We reprinted it, got it to them. We just always delivered. No matter what it was, we always delivered, and they trusted us. Right. 2015, the Warriors are playing in the playoffs. And I get a random call from the guy from the radio station saying, hey, my brother works for an agency. And we weren't an agency at the time. So we were just a screen printing company. So we didn't even know what agencies were. So he said, my brother works for an agency in LA. They have a client. They want to do like 9,000 shirts for the Warriors and they need it like in 2 days. I said, cool, we'll get it. We'll get it done. Call us. Agency called us. They ended up getting to us like a day late. We turned the 9,000 shirts around like literally that same night. Like we were waiting. They dropped it off at like, I want to say like 12 o'clock at night because they were driving from LA. We started on it. We had it for them at like 9 a.m. the next day. Like something crazy. Like we turned it around super quick. And they were like, what the hell did you do? We've worked with vendors before and nobody's ever done that.
Right.
And so this is the value part. So I said, and it's the long-term building part. So I called the people that were on ground in the agency because they were going to do an activation, meaning that they were going to go around the Bay Area and pass out these shirts. So I called them and said, hey, do you need some help? We'll come out there, we'll fold shirts, we'll clean up, we'll pack up, we'll do whatever. We just want to be around. We want to see how it works. This is interesting. We've never worked with that.
Yeah.
So we go and meet them at Lake Merritt in Oakland, help them pass out some flyers and just move the boxes, set stuff up, always helping. You always want to help no matter what it is. So I'm over here carrying boxes, trying to help fold shirts and all this stuff. And we were standing there and then two guys randomly like came up and was like talking to us and we didn't know who they were. And so they were like super cool. We're like, oh yeah, we do this, this, and this. And then the lady that we were working with came up and was like, oh, those are the clients. I'm like, what are you talking about? She was like, that they work for Nike. They're like the big bosses that do all this stuff. I was still confused. I didn't know how agency client relationships work. I was like, what do you mean? Like, I didn't know. So they were like, look, we don't have the Warriors just started winning. So Nike was like, look, we don't have a vendor out in the Bay Area. We would love to set you up as our preferred vendor.
Wow.
So his card, right? So I'm thinking, oh, we just hit the lottery. I'm like, oh. But this is the thing, right? I emailed him, no response. I emailed him again, no response. I literally emailed this dude for like 6 months straight and didn't get one response. And then something happened where they like got into a crunch and they needed some shirts on Sunday and they called me on Friday night. Boom, got it done, delivered. They were getting us all the little stupid jobs that nobody wants to take on and people would complain about, right? They're like, no, people will probably be like, I want the big orders. Give me the big orders. Yeah. And I'm like, look, I'll take anything. We're just trying to provide value. So we just delivered. And then after a while, they ended up like, we did a small project again. It was like a crazy ask. We got it done in less than a day. And they were just like, damn, these dudes have earned it. And so they randomly sent me the link to get set up in their thing. We went through the whole process. We got set up in their system. So now, boom, we're a preferred vendor for Nike. So everything that they do in the Bay, they're coming to us. And then, so we just started building that relationship slowly but surely. And it probably took like a year and a half to do that. But then what happened is then they introduced us to the Warriors. Now we start building a relationship with the Warriors, doing the same kind of things. And then next thing you know, we get an opportunity. He calls me. His name is Gian. He was the brand director at Nike, like Nike West. And he called me. He's like, hey, Dev, we have 30,000 shirts that we want to do for Oracle. And it's arena takeover and this, and this. Can you get it done? I was like, of course, send me the details. Boom, we got the details. We got it done. We printed the shirts, wrapped it up. Next thing you know, all Oracle, every single shirt, every single seat had our shirt in it. And it was like just going into that arena. And I remember in 2015 seeing the Warriors, playoffs and seeing all those shirts. And I said, I'm going to get that account. I said, I don't know how it is. And I told my team, we're going to get that account. We had no connections with Nike, no connections with the Warriors, nothing. And I told him, I said, I guarantee, watch. I told my team. So walking in that arena after we did all of that stuff was like, bro, this is crazy. Because I seen this in my head. It's about that vision.
Wow.
All of the shirts up there. And then that just led to a bunch of stuff. That's why we're working with the Warriors now and doing a bunch of, that's how we got to seeding kids. Then we got an opportunity to do some stuff with the Lakers for the season ticket holders. That didn't go through, but it was about the opportunity, right? We had the opportunity. We're working with the Lakers, marketing department over some stuff that Nike introduced us to. And so like, there was just a lot of stuff of how we built that relationship. So that was one example of how we did that.
Right.
And I'll give you one more, and this one's crazy. So thinking long term, again, this all goes back to my point of thinking about long term. My homie worked. I met this guy. His name is Fred at a speaking event that I was doing for these like teenagers, and I spoke and just kind of talked about my story and stuff. I met him. He was a manager at Starbucks. So I would see him. We built a relationship. Really cool dude. Just kept in touch. He ends up moving to the Starbucks headquarters when everything happened, when they like kicked the black folks out or called the police on them or whatever. That whole little thing that happened like 3-4 years ago. So he worked to help with like the whole diversity and inclusion program within Starbucks and help lead like the training. So he started to work with the BPN, which is the Starbucks Black Partner Network, which is a subgroup within Starbucks. And so he reached out to me one day and he was like, hey, we have this project where we want to rebrand the BPN. I'm trying to get you into Starbucks. So in my mind, I'm thinking, okay, it's like a subdivision of Starbucks. It's not the actual like Starbucks and all that stuff. So I was like, all right, cool. Rebrand started like, $25,000, this, and this. And they're like, oh, we don't even have that budget. We have like maybe like $1,200 towards this budget. So normal people would be like, oh, nah, we'd have to, try to negotiate and try to get that upfront payment. And I said, okay, this may not lead to anything. It may, whatever. I'll do it for you because I really like Fred and I really appreciate what he's doing, and why not? So we took an L at this project. We started to do it. It was received really well. Then they reached out to us to do some merchandise, right? So now we started to rebrand all the T-shirts and all this stuff. I'm like, I didn't think nothing of that. Okay, so cool. That's a little revenue stream from there. Then they had to set up their website and do all the stuff for all the BPN, partners across, Starbucks. And slowly it just started to build, and we just started building the relationship. And this was in 2018. And then we started to do like the leadership conference. We did like 13,000 shirts. We just got all these different opportunities, but it started all from building that relationship and thinking long-term, not trying to get anything of it. So fast forward to last year, to 2020, when everything happened with the George Floyd and all the stuff happened, the news with the BLM stuff and, all of the stuff. We were working on a project before that article even came out, before any of that stuff happened, to do something for all the partners that we wanted to provide. Mm-hmm. So before even all that bad press happened, leadership was like putting something together for this. Mm-hmm. And so long story short, we ended up last year doing 250,000 shirts for every Starbucks employee in the US and Canada. And we did all of those. I don't know if you guys have seen and been into the Starbucks. They had the stand together on the front with the fist, and then it has like all the color in the back. And literally it went to every single Starbucks employee in the US and Canada. And I'm talking about like, it was the biggest project. We had to get 250,000 shirts with 3 placements done in 3 weeks. It was the biggest project that we've had to do, and shipped to over 10,000 locations.
Wow.
So it was just a huge project and a huge undertaking, and my team just came together and executed. But all that stuff, I mean, we're talking about like, that just puts us in a different caliber, right? Like in terms of our agency, it just put us in a whole different ballpark to be able to, go from printing T-shirts with a wooden fireplace and drying them, or with a wooden press and drying them with a fireplace, 24 shirts, thinking that's a big order, to 250,000 shirts with 3 locations in 3 weeks, bro. And it all started from saying yes to taking that first L.
Yeah.
It started with because I thought long term. I didn't think it would turn to that. Honestly, like I thought that would be cool, right? I entertained the idea in my head, like, that'd be cool if we did that. But I'm like, that'd never happen. But I don't care. I'm gonna just trust the process. And bro, it was crazy seeing those numbers. I'm like, I ain't never seen no numbers like that. I didn't even know orders got that big. I'm like, that's crazy. Right. Cases and pallets, and like it was just a lot of logistical stuff. And so it was so wild because it was really 750,000 prints because it was 3 locations. So I had to go on the press 3 times.
Right.
And it was wild in the middle of a pandemic, and it was crazy because early, it was wild because we didn't know what was going to happen in 2020. We thought it was going to be, we didn't know. We lost a lot of our business because a lot of our stuff is around events and stuff. And so 2020 ended up being our best year in business to date, and not even just with that project. It was all around. We just started getting different opportunities, and it was just, it was wild, bro. And like, I'm here to tell all of you guys listening today that, as corny as it sounds, where people say dreams do come true and stuff does happen, like it's gonna take time, but if you really put in the work, it will happen. A lot of people think, and this is a good segue. I really wanted to talk about this because I mentioned it a little bit like on the TikTok video, but it's something that really changed my life that's practical that I think your listeners can use because it helped change everything for me. So the big thing is like, it's the little things that you do every day that equal the big wins, right? we didn't get that account out of nowhere. It was the whole process that led up to it. So a lot of times when we're thinking about things and we're thinking about success and we're thinking about all this stuff, we think it's that big hit, right? It's that big flip. And that flip comes around, but it was all the little stuff that I did every single day that contributed, that put me in position. And again, like I said, that built me and was ready, and I was able to be able to fulfill that order. Because if I didn't go through all that other stuff in all those previous years, it wouldn't have worked. And so I was listening to this podcast, and it was something that the guy was talking about, how habits create links. It's the stuff that you do every single day. And each time you do something, it creates a link. And the more you do that habit, it creates a stronger and stronger link. And so in the beginning of the year, I started to think about, okay, for me, I'm a visual person. I need to see stuff, right? And so in my mindset, it's like, I want to accomplish these big things, but it's not about that. It's about the small things you doing, repetitively that equal the big things. And so I came up with this exercise, and I was like, okay, there's this concept of like each link. And so I'm gonna show you this. So what I ended up doing is I started to think about the different links and stuff, right? And I said, all right, I'm gonna do this stuff. And I started on January 1st. And I said, at the end of the day, I'm gonna earn a paperclip, right? It sounds crazy, but follow me. I have a green paperclip, a silver paperclip, and a red paperclip. And I said, if I get a workout in and I get some physical exercise, I get a green paperclip. If I do my stuff of like affirmations and write in my journal and make my bed in the morning, I get a silver paperclip, right? Like I have a process of like what I need to do every day to get the silver paperclip. And if I mess up and don't do anything, I get a red paperclip. So at the end of the day, it gave me something to focus on. And like, okay, it gave me those little tasks to be able to set up. So what I'm doing is every month I'm taking these different paper clips. And as you can see, there's red paper clips in here, right? There's a lot of silver and there's a lot of green. And so the way that I set this up is what it's allowing me to do is every month I'm doing a different string of paper clips. What it's allowing me to do is that, okay, if I have a couple red paper clips here, right? Before, if I didn't have anything to track it, in my mind, I start thinking, man, I just messed up. I'm a failure. I fell off and I did all this stuff, all that negative stuff. But then I can look back and say, okay, but above here is all these other paper clips. So why am I going to let these three? Am I going to keep letting these paper clips fill up red, or am I going to get back on it? So it's allowed me to like visually see it and be able to kind of just focus on the little things and the little tasks to be able to get me to that next step. And bro, when I tell you there's nothing in my life that has changed more than this, because it's held me accountable. It's been able to give me something to focus on every day. It's been able to give me a small little task every day, an accomplishment. And it's been able to allow me to just structure and rewire my thinking of what's important and how to do that. And I haven't shared that anywhere yet. I kind of talked about it on TikTok, literally January 1st before I started it. But now 3 months in, or coming up on 4 months in, bro, I would suggest everybody does that to hold themselves accountable in a way that they can just see what makes sense.
Bruh, the paperclip company's about to go up, boy. My dog. I'm going to Amazon once we get off this interview, and I'm buying 3 color paper clips, bro. That is fire, bro. That junk is so hard, bro. That's one of the best things. Look, you done gave us a lot of great things. I love the story. You done told us a lot of stuff, bro. But that paperclip thing, oh my God, dog.
I'm telling you, I don't know where it came from. It was like I said, I was listening to the podcast, The Habits. Bro, there's nothing that has changed my life more than that. Because if you want to focus on something, it allows you to keep things in perspective, because it's so easy to get in your brain and be like, oh, I messed up. See, I done messed up. I didn't go to the gym for a week and this, and this. It's like, now it's like, no, wait. I'm not going to keep accumulating these red paper clips. Let me adjust. It forces you to see it, and it forces you to make those adjustments. And these are the things, step by step, that I started to realize was important. And I started to realize, how am I going to hold myself accountable? And it's kind of like, if you think about it, back in grade school, you get the little gold stars. You know what I mean? Like if you do something good and you do your chores, it goes back to that same philosophy. And it's the way to create links and create new habits. And this is how I found out every month I'm creating new things that I'm adding to the silver paper clips. And it's allowing me to create these habits where now it's easy. Now I write without even thinking about it every night. It's like, it's not even a thing. Like I completely changed my habits from doing this. And bro, I'm telling you, something that'll change your life.
Man, bro, I already see it. You ain't even got to tell me twice. I'm on it. I love it, bro. And I appreciate, like you said, you might have shared it on TikTok a little bit, but I appreciate you sharing that with me and with us. And I'm on it. You ain't got to tell me again. Real quick, Andre says, do you put both green and silver on like the same day?
Right. That's a good question. So I look at it as I do green. So if I get my workout in, chances are, honestly, like there hasn't been a time where I didn't get my workout in and I didn't do the rest of my stuff. Right. Because it just, you don't, like, the momentum goes. Like, you do the workout, which is the hardest part for me. And it's like, it's easy. My affirmations are at night and my journal is at night. Now I got to process. So in the morning, I make my bed every morning, and I'm trying to do new habits. So right now I've been getting up at 6 a.m. I just got all my stuff from my home gym. So I'm starting to work out at the house. I make a little lemon water, drink that in the morning. I make my bed, work out, take a shower, and then I start my day. I read. I try to like have some quiet time to just organize my thoughts, because sometimes in the morning your head will be racing and stuff. So I have to like calm myself down and say, okay, but that's not real right now. Let me focus on what's really happening right now, calm myself down. So it's just allowed me to, I'm telling you, it's allowed me to really rewire my brain. Like I really want to write like a book on this and like how it's like helped me. Like I'm like, my mindset is like how I've been thinking about it is actually doing this like really dope like quote book kind of thing of just kind of like stories, and then having like a kit where it comes with these paper clips and these ideas and stuff like that. And just in terms of like how it's set up, because when I tell you there's not been anything that's held me accountable more than this and allowed me to like be able to build.
Man, bro, that's that vision again. Please do something like that, bro. That's like no cap, you know what I'm saying? I ain't hyping you none of that, bro. That's so fire, bro. And I'm absolutely thankful that you shared that strategy, because that's something everybody can do, and I'm on it. I'm with it. So
that's a practical thing, right?
I wanted to give quick shout out to S. Perry. Thank you so much, S. Perry, for donating to the show. Much appreciation. Said it's your own therapeutic strategy into success for me. Accountability. And that's exactly what it is. So many blessings, S. Perry. Much appreciation. So my brother, you didn't share so much with us. There's one of the final things that I just want to ask you about.
Yeah.
You talked about for Kurieo, how you partner with brands and you help tell stories. Mm-hmm. Talk to me about this whole storytelling aspect and the importance of it when it comes to a brand getting their products or their clothing, whatever, out into the marketplace.
It's important. It's everything, right? We connect to stories, right? That's how you think about anything in life. You think about movies, you think about books, you think about a great conversation you have with somebody. It's all stories. It's like how you tell a story is how people are going to feel about something. And the people that tell the best stories win, right? In terms of like, how do you make it entertaining? How do you make it make sense for me? How do you make it, relevant? So I think as business owners that are coming up, it's so important to find out what is your narrative? What is your story? What is that authentic voice? Because chances are, if you're into it, there's going to be a lot of other people that are into it. And this is the thing, when we were doing everything different stuff and that visionary stuff, I remember people telling me like, nobody wants to hear that positive stuff, right? Because at a time where that stuff wasn't cool, inspiration quotes on Instagram wasn't cool. Like people were like, it was all negative and all this other stuff. Like that's what was selling. And everybody told me this is not going to work. This is not going to work. But I stayed true to me. And so chances are, whatever you guys are doing with your storytelling, sometimes it takes time for people to catch up, right? Sometimes you're so far ahead of the game where it's like, you got to let the world catch up to you. And so as you're starting to think about that story, think about what resonates and is authentic to you, because the more authentic you are, the more authentic you tell your story and what that means, the more people are going to connect and resonate with it, because you can tell when people are being, unauthentic. Like you can tell when people are just, trying to sell you on something versus when people are like, it's coming from the heart and you like really telling a story. You think about all the biggest brands, you think about Nike, you think about Apple. They don't talk about their products. They talk about the lifestyle and what it means. They tell good stories. They tell you, they make you feel a certain way about it. So as you're starting to think about that, there's a video from Simon Sinek that's called The Golden Circle or something like that, where it was like, it's basically, you'd have to watch the video, but it's basically all the best brands start with why, and then they end up with what they're selling, right? So starting with why is going to be so important. Why are you doing what you're doing? Why should people care? Why should people listen to you? Why should people feel a connection to this? And I think the more that you hone in on that story, and the more that you hone in on your authentic story, the more it's going to resonate and the more you're going to connect with people. And sometimes, you don't have to worry about, now with social media, everybody's out there. Like, there's somebody that, if you're into something, there's a lot of people out there that are into it too. So that's why it's so important to find out, not clout chasing for, the stuff that's cool right now, because you'll always be late. If you're chasing the trends, you're going to always be late, because the people that are setting the trends are already onto something else. So by the time you catch up, it's going to be too late. They're onto something else. And so trying to chase those trends will never do you any good. Now you could intertwine those trends with what you're doing, right? Like you can use challenges and stuff like that to, like, those are trends that are like, it integrates into your bigger picture, but don't let that be the single thing that you're chasing. And that's what we like to do. We like to just try to find the story. What are the stories from our clients, and how do we authentically tell it in a real way?
So, man, that's so powerful, bro. That's extremely powerful. And I love how you talked about, I think, Simon Sinek, starting with why. Actually, y'all, if y'all go to my Instagram later on, there was a video from Prince Donnell, and I did the little real remix, and he talked about why. He talked about why. And so I think that's extremely powerful. Thank you for sharing, bro. And y'all think about the story. As you're asking your clients these questions, what are you asking them? Are you saying, what made you start it? Why are you creating this? Like, what questions are you asking them to extract those stories?
I think it's doing a lot of research. So a lot of the brands that we're working with are bigger brands, right? So they have a lot of content out there. They have a lot of things out there. So what we've been able to do is, like, it's been about, for me, we have a creative process. We have a really, 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 really good brand strategist that is really good. Her name is Brittany, and she's, like, phenomenal when it comes to storytelling and, like, figuring out and extracting these different concepts and ideas and finding ways to do it. So wow. I can't sit here and take the credit, like, oh, I'm the one that comes up with these, crazy stories and all this stuff. But the process that we go through, the process that she goes through, is just asking questions. Okay, who is this for? Why is this for them? How is this going to benefit their life? What is this help? Who is that? Finding out who that person is and how do they think? What do they resonate with? What are they struggling with? What are their challenges? What are their pain points? What are they, going through? What is something that can fix their problem? What is something that is a way to be able to help their client or their end user? What is the main goal? What is the feeling that you're trying to get from that? It does stuff, right? So many times we, as people, deal with what I like to say, like, the symptoms of stuff, right? The branches, right? If you're looking at a tree, you're dealing with the branches, but the branches aren't the actual thing, it's the root. So trying to get down to the root cause of, like, what is really happening, right? If the branches and your plants are turning brown and all that stuff, it's not from the leaf that's happening most of the time. It's from the roots. It's from under. It's like, is it getting enough water? So we try to, like, just really go under the hood and try to figure out what is that story and who is your client and what are their needs and how do we authentically tell that story.
Powerful. Listen, everybody. So make sure when you watch this interview again, Devin just listed out a whole gang of questions. He talked about, who is this for? What do they resonate with? What are they going through? What feeling are you trying to get? So as you're thinking about telling your story, ask yourself these questions, right? And he just gave us a whole list that you could write out and start asking yourself so you can start crafting that story for your brand. So that's extremely valuable, my brother. I truly appreciate it. Real quick, that Fab Life, thank you so much. I'm so appreciative of all the value in your videos. I'm about to be the pay-per-click queen.
I love it.
And then honestly, Spin King 365 for 365 days of vision. Many, many blessings for that, Fab Life. And then also, honestly, Spin King 365. So, my brother, this has been extremely valuable, man.
Sure.
My last question for you. You got a light in the background that says, follow your dreams. What are your dreams, my man?
Honestly, I've been, I think things change over time, right? I think as you start going through life, different things start mattering a little bit differently to you, right? You start having different perspectives and stuff like that. And so I have a 18-month-old daughter, And it definitely changed my perspective on things, right? Like, what do I want? What is the big picture of stuff? And I think the stuff that I've been on most recently is being the best version of myself. And I know it sounds like cliche and all that stuff, but I took a step back at making content and putting out content for a while, right? Like for this last year, I kind of dabbled in it here and there. I was putting out consistent content before, but with the whole world and everything happening, I had to I realized like a lot of stuff that I was posting on social was like, it wasn't a reflection of how I was really feeling internally, right? It was like, if I'm being completely honest, it's like living more on social media to make it look like I'm happy versus like actually being happy in real life. Mm-hmm. And so I had to take a step back and I said, you know what? My goal of what I want to do is I want to be happy in real life. You know, it's not about getting this validation from social and stuff like that. I want to become my fullest potential. We all have these demons. We all have these things that hold us back and self-sabotage. So honestly, real talk, my thing is just being able to maximize me, right? And maximize the stuff that I'm doing and be able to really do the work. Like I'm really doing the work on myself, and to be able to come out and share these experiences like the paperclip idea, to be able to really authentically help people in a real way where it's like, I don't need nothing from you. Like I'm gonna be good. I'm gonna get mine, right? Like I'm gonna be good, but I really want to be able to be that voice that I never had, you know, necessarily growing up and having that perspective of that. So my dream is just being able to, you know, pay it forward, right? Being able to share that stuff, being able to see, you know, the people that I'm mentoring that like are mentoring that, you know, are flourishing and doing stuff like that's dope to me. Like that's where my perspective is now. It's kind of like it goes from being like the little homie to like being an OG, right? Like it's a weird transition as I'm like starting to shift into being like, I'm not the one coming up anymore. I'm like, you know, somewhat established with all that. I got a lot more to go, but now it's like the little homies are coming up, and now I became the OG that's like the big homie that's kind of like mentoring. So my dreams is just like, that's what I get. Like, you know, doing stuff like this, being able to, you know, see the comments and how people receive that paperclip concept and idea, and like, and it's real, it's authentic. And so my thing is just keep building, keep bettering myself, keep building on this, making an impact, working with the brands that I want to work with, you know, and leaving a legacy and being able to, you know, be the best father I could be.
Absolutely, man. Well, big salute to you, my brother. And I think that, you know, it's power in what you talked about, you know, from a place of constantly putting up content, but then, you know, the power of stepping back, right? Taking a step back to reevaluate where you personally are in your life. And then you come with this new, fresh perspective of where you want to take it, how you want to make an impact, how you want to give back, and pass the torch as well. And so, man, many blessings, bro. This has been extremely valuable, man. I have these interviews, bro, and I'm like, man, it was so good. How, you know, what's going to be the next one? And it just keeps going and going and going. So, bro, I appreciate you, man. I thank you for being authentic, for sharing your story, for sharing your insight, the whole paperclip thing. I'm sure, like I said, people are going to be buying paperclips. But man, for just being a part of this T-shirt Millionaires movement and putting your fingerprint on it, bro, I can't thank you enough. And I'm sure the audience feels the same exact way. So for those who want to follow you, bro, for those who want to reach out to you, you know, how can people get in contact with you? What are your websites? Let's talk about that real quick.
Yeah, everything on social is just my name, Devin Lars. So, you know, IG, Devin, you know, at Devin Lars. I think YouTube is Devin Lars. TikTok is Devin.Lars. So yeah, that's the main thing there. You know, my website, Kurieo, is at the bottom, devinlars.com. I have some, you know, some courses and some programs that I put together that, you know, a lot of people have taken. They say that it's been helpful and stuff like that. And, you know, I'm getting ready to put out a lot more content on YouTube. So, you know, you can subscribe to that. But I want to, you know, take a minute to just shout you out, man, because like everything that you're doing is dope. I've been seeing your videos for a while. I love the consistency, right? It's like, that stuff inspires me, right? The consistency and what you talk about, the organization and all that stuff, what you're talking about in terms of logistics, the whole experience of how you did the interview and the whole process has been seamless. It's been like a great experience. You made it super easy. I didn't have to think about it. I could just log in. So just from a logistical standpoint, and I know what like process and stuff, it's dope, man. You're doing some great stuff and bringing some real value to this community, and you know, I respect it, and it definitely inspired me of just how you have everything structured and laid out. So keep doing your thing.
Hey man, well, I appreciate that, man. I receive it. I thank you, my brother. And it's just the beginning, man. I'm sure there's something down the line that we can possibly do. But hey, many blessings to you, family. I appreciate you. Keep doing what you're doing, man, and we'll definitely be in touch, bro.
For sure. I'm gonna come see you when I get to Atlanta.
Absolutely. When you come, make sure you hit me up. I'm gonna make sure we trade numbers and all that.
Okay, for sure.
All right, bet.
All right, yes.
All right. And another one. Y'all know how it is, man. This was it. My dog was extremely amazing. Like I told him, man, I was like, listen, I try to reach out to these people, and I'm always asking myself, I hope they say yes. I hope they say yes. You feel what I'm saying? And there's some people that I've reached out to that I really, really want to be on the show, but I haven't gotten those yeses. But I'm so thankful of the ones that I have gotten yeses from, and he shared so much gems with us today. And one of the big things that I just want to make sure that y'all highlight, right? As somebody said they want the commentary, so here's the commentary. One big thing that man, this is powerful. Small beginnings. Don't despise small beginnings. Don't despise small opportunities. Make sure you take those small, minute opportunities and expand on them. Devin taking the small opportunities from Nike. Devin taking the small opportunities from the Warriors Project. Those got him bigger opportunities later on. The man said he went in Oracle Stadium, Oracle Center, arena, whatever you call it, and the shirts that he printed are on all the chairs all around it. Don't despise the small stuff. Take it. Work with it. Look at it as an opportunity. So we're going to take the small opportunities, but the next thing is we're not going to think short term, though. We're going to think long term. It's about the long-term vision. It's about what can happen 6 months, 12 months, a year, 5 years, 10 years down the line. Storytelling. To get a brand to connect, what are the things that you can ask yourself? Who is this brand for? What is the feeling that you want to get from it? I always talk about emotion. How can you make somebody emotionally connect with your brand? You need to ask yourself these questions as you're building your brand. Persistence. When things go wrong, when you might be at a place where you're like, man, I'm putting in all this effort, but I feel like I'm not making the money that I want to make. When clients don't come through, when your sales, your ads aren't working, how are you being persistent and pushing through those things? I heard a lot of y'all talk today in the comments. Devin talked about a few things that didn't go right, but guess what? Just like the words of Jay-Z, a loss ain't a loss, it's a lesson. What are the lessons? He said that, yeah, there's some things that I maybe could have done in hindsight, but I'm glad that everything happened the way that it did because it taught me a lesson. The paper clips, man. Y'all better make sure y'all get y'all some paper clips. Your boy, once I get off of this interview, I'm going to Amazon straight up. I'm about to get some yellow. I'm about to get some reds. I'm about to get, I'm about to get some colors. You know what I'm saying? Because I got a few things that I want to make sure that I'm accountable about. And I just thought that it was so powerful to say every single month I can have this string. And even if I get reds on certain days, I can look at it and be like, okay, Charles, you made progress here. You made progress here. Let's make it a little more consistent each day. Visually, to be able to easily look back and see, that was extremely powerful. Devin, if you watch this interview, bro, we already had some people talk about they want to go ahead and get that pre-order. I need that pre-order of that book, my guy. Straight up. He said that everything that you're going through right now, the things that you're doing right now, whether it's right or wrong, is preparing you for your future self, for your future success, for the 2.0 version of yourself. Don't look at the stuff like, oh man, it's beating me up. This is preparing you for something greater later on. It's preparing you for something greater later on. He had great opportunities that happened. He had great opportunities that happened, and he didn't shy back. He had 250,000 shirts, a lot of logistics, a lot of stuff going on, and they figured out how to pull it off. Added value. Got plugged in with Chris Brown. Didn't go straight through Chris Brown, but got to the bodyguard and added value. How can you add value? To the person that you might be targeting, or to the person, somebody around that person, how can you add value? That is the way to get in the door. Always think about where can you add value first. Not about taking, but about giving. You plant a seed before a harvest comes up. Vision. Vision. Y'all know how I say, y'all know how we gonna end this video, but vision. What's your vision? Can you see into the future? Can you see something greater? Do you understand that everybody else may not see the same vision that you have? Everybody might not see exactly what you see, but as long as you see it, you need to keep pushing. Eventually, the world may catch up. They might not even catch up. You see your vision. Life is short, man. It's about us making stuff happen, man. Life is short. You gonna live status quo? You gonna do things that make you unhappy, or you gonna follow a dream? You gonna chase a dream? You're going to make something happen. You're going to walk in your purpose. Do you realize that you are here for a purpose? Do you realize that you are unique and nobody else has a voice like yours? Nobody has ideas like yours. There are ideas, there are talents, that are things given specifically for you to do while you walk this earth. Are you going to do it? Or are you going to let it sit? Life is short. Listen, man. I'm appreciative of my brother, man. I appreciate him. This was an amazing interview. I'm so grateful. I'm so thankful of everybody that watches this show. Man, I appreciate y'all, man. This is only the beginning. This is only the beginning. Big things coming for T-Shirt Millionaires. And I want to let y'all know, man, anybody that watches, anybody that supports, y'all are T-Shirt Millionaires. And I'm thankful for y'all being a part of this at these very beginning stages. It's going to be so much bigger. So many of y'all I'm going to meet in person one day. It's going to be so big. And all I'm trying to do is bring people to this space, collaborate, communicate ideas to help us take things to the next level and help us see what are the possibilities with your brand. But I'm so thankful of Devin today, and this has been extremely amazing. So listen, man, I'm going ahead and I'm knocking out all these comments. I thank y'all for all these comments. I appreciate everybody that stays to the end, feeds good energy. Mr. D Woods, you my dog, bro. I appreciate you, family. You always provide value, my friend. Thank you so much for when things that we might not know, terms and different things like that. I got to give you a shout out because you provide value by offering those definitions, man. And I just appreciate that every single time. I thank y'all, everybody here. I appreciate it. Everybody that donates to the show and the super chats. The super chats, that money that sits in YouTube, those are things that I can use to upgrade the show. And if it's equipment and a different light and different stuff like that, y'all are adding to the show. So I'm thankful of your gifts. And I can't just, I can't thank you enough. I'm appreciative, and I'm humble. All right. And the last thing that I want to just make sure I give a shout out to Teach, Pray, Love brand. Thank you, Charles, for all you do. So grateful. I'm so humbled. And I just do this for y'all, man. I do this for y'all. And this is my way that I add value. God has given me the vision, and I'm continuing to put it out there. I'm continuing to build. All right. So listen, we're going to go ahead and end it. Thank y'all so much again. Make sure you hit the like button at this point in time. Make sure you subscribe if you haven't subscribed. Make sure you share it on your Facebook page, Instagram. Send it to somebody that you feel like could get value from this interview. And until the next episode, y'all know how we do, man. If you can see it with your mind's eye, just like Devin did, one day you gonna be able to see it with your real eyes. It's all about a vision. Many blessings, man. Peace. I will see y'all on the next episode.
They say greatness resides in all of us, and that all we have to do is see it, find it, live it, believe it. It all starts with a vision. Everything. And even though some people may look at you funny, don't understand it, can't see it, or maybe it's not time for them to see it. But one thing's for certain, is that when they do see it, they won't be able to ignore it. And honestly, the only thing that really matters is that you see it.